Welcome to Frontlines. I am Karnig Kerkonian, joining you today, as always, with my co-host and friend, Garo Ghazarian. We welcome our viewers from across the United States and Canada, from Europe and the Middle East, from Australia and South America, and of course, from Armenia and Artsakh. Azerbaijan's war of aggression against Artsakh is not over. It's not over at all. When they are not disrupting gas supplies, they are attacking villages, seeking strategic heights. When they cannot use tanks, they're using loudspeakers. The language from official Baku is clear. This is about ethnic cleansing. Through force, violence, and intimidation, Azerbaijan is intent on eliminating the Armenians from Artsakh. Where they can't do it by force and intimidation, they use propaganda, claiming throughout Europe that the Nagorno-Karabakh issue is resolved, that there is no such thing as Nagorno-Karabakh or Artsakh. This, of course, is not true. A cold winter without heating gas remains for several weeks now. Armenian soldiers killed and injured, attack drones appearing back in the skies again. The ceasefire breached repeatedly by Azerbaijan. This war is not over. I'd like to pass it on to Garo to introduce our guest for today, where we can cover these topics.
Thank you, Karnik. Parelus sireli հայրենակիցներ Արցախի մեջ եւ Հայաստանի մեջ. And good day, everyone, throughout the diasporan globe. Welcome to Frontlines. I am honored to have with us again today, with Karnig and I on Frontlines, Gegham Stepanyan, who is the human rights defender, the Ombudsman of the Artsakh Republic. Previously, it should be noted that Gegham Stepanyan has served as the assistant to the parliament speaker in the Republic of Artsakh National Assembly from 2016 through 2020. He holds a bachelor's degree from Yerevan State University's Department of International Relations and a master's degree in International Relations and Political Science from the American University of Armenia. And somewhere in between all of that, he served in the Army of the Republic of Artsakh from 2009 to 2011. And he serves today the Republic of Artsakh. He serves indeed the Armenian nation, and he is our guest this evening in the United States and this morning in Artsakh and Armenia.
Gegham, I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Բարի օր բոլորին, շնորհակալ եմ հրավերի համար, and thank you very much for this occasion to speak once again with you and to present the situation in Artsakh and the clear picture that we have today and all the genocidal policy that the Azerbaijani side is trying to carry out in Artsakh, and also to present the details and the facts of this policy.
And thank you, Gegham. And why don't we start with that? If you can tell us, what is the security situation as we speak, which is now Monday morning in Stepanakert? What is the security situation on the borders at this point?
The security situation is mainly tense in the bordering villages, and especially in the village of Khramort and nearby other villages such as Khanabad, Paruk, that today is still under occupation of Azerbaijani side. Mainly in all 30 villages that after the establishment of ceasefire are located very close to the contact line. But in Stepanakert, the life is normal and people are going to work. The security issue is now very much problematic in our villages, in all the villages that I already talked about. The Russian peacekeepers are trying to ensure the peace in the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh, of Artsakh, but we see that the Azerbaijani side is constantly trying to violate the ceasefire regime and to resort to provocations, to different actions, criminal actions intended to implement their main goal, which is the eviction of Armenian population from Artsakh and the ethnic cleansing of Nagorno-Karabakh, of Artsakh. I would like to come from the beginning. I think that after the establishment of ceasefire and after signing the trilateral statement on November 9, 2020, the Azerbaijani side and the Azerbaijani leadership did not imagine that so many people would return to Artsakh after the war, and especially after the brutal and inhuman actions and crimes that they committed during the war, during the 44-day war. And they assumed that the Armenian population in Artsakh would decrease, so they would consider that the Karabakh conflict was settled. But we saw that most of the Armenians of Artsakh returned to their homes despite all the uncertainties and all the difficulties. And despite having such a large displaced population, Artsakh is still trying to survive and to solve and to overcome the challenges. In fact, today we have 120,000 population in Artsakh, and I would like to emphasize that in other words, Azerbaijan's wish to evict Armenian population from Artsakh as a result of the war was not fulfilled. And I think that this is why the Azerbaijani authorities continued their policy of ethnic cleansing after the war, now using other means. And I think that we will speak about that means during our discussion.
Gegham, if I may, Karnig, you know, it's clear that there's a systematic evidence of Azerbaijan strategically timing its attacks on Armenians, its attacks on Artsakh. The first time in recent memory or recent history was during the days and weeks leading up to the presidential election in the United States, while the US was busy with election cycle, Europe was busy monitoring US elections. Azerbaijan commenced with the 44-day atrocities, if you will. And now, with Russia and Ukraine in a conflict and the entire world concerned about that conflict, once again, they seize the moment and they start first with the cutting off of the gas, then they turn on the gas, then they secure a valve so they can turn it off again. And you talked about the trilateral statement of November 9, 2020. And, you know, these statements or these legal documents or these agreements, if you will, on their own, obviously mean nothing, you know, unless they are implemented. And if there's a side that violates it, suffers consequences. You know, I have to say, let's assume for a moment that Russia cut off the gas supply to the entire country of Ukraine. What would happen? The entire world, which is already up in arms about that conflict, would go ballistic, probably. But the same is happening with Azerbaijan cutting off the basic necessities, which, by the way, contrary to their propaganda games that they have played, is not supplied by Azerbaijan gas, state gas company, if you will. It's supplied by Gazprom coming from Armenia. My question to you is, my question to all of us is, why in the world is the international so-called community not outraged when Azerbaijan freezes children and elderly for 10, 11 days on end, when it violates the trilateral statement? Who, after all, is going to hold them accountable? I know we as Armenians, it falls on us. We cannot rely on anyone, but at the end of the day, there's an invited peacekeeping force in Artsakh. And my question is, why is it that our pain, our suffering is any less than the Ukrainians or any other people around the world, that everybody gets gets all worked up about, and rightfully so.
Garo, I agree with you, and I always state that despite the work that we are doing here on raising the issues of violation, widespread violation of human rights of Artsakh people, nobody listens to us, and nobody is trying to really intervene and to put pressure on Azerbaijani side in order to eliminate all the human rights violations. And especially in this situation when you, as you rightly mentioned, the whole population of Artsakh is deprived of gas supply, and which brought with it humanitarian catastrophe, humanitarian consequences in all the spheres of normal organization of life in Artsakh, starting from heating of and hot water in houses, in educational institutions, in hospitals, and also including the disruption of normal organization and normal functioning of our economy. And the international community has not responded to this situation properly. And we always state about that. And I think that, and I'm sure that unfortunately, human rights, and especially the rights of Armenian people, are under of ignorance by the international community. And all the human rights agenda in the world is very much politicized, and in fact, it serves to the interests of different countries. I mean, if a country is interested in intervention, then human rights comes first, but if they are not interested in any kind of intervention, they will remain silent. This is the situation that we have, and so this is why we try to also engage our diaspora compatriots to have their support and to have their voice, and also use their channels to voice the problems that today we have in Artsakh, and to reach out to international organizations and to different decision makers in different countries. I can state that after a month of speaking to the world about the problems that currently we have in Artsakh, the OSCE News Group co-chairs stated about the crimes and the violations of Azerbaijani side. I think that it is very important that all three co-chairs stated that the Azerbaijani side violated the ceasefire regime, and the Azerbaijani side is to be should withdraw its forces to its original positions. But I think that calls are not enough to make Azerbaijan to apply to its international obligations. And I think that international community, different countries should put more pressure on Azerbaijan, including using sanctions against Azerbaijan in order to make Azerbaijan to implement the international obligation that they have, including the Russian side, which after signing the trilateral statement is the main guarantor of the security in the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. And we always raise this issue before the Russian peacekeeping contingent now deployed in Artsakh, and we always try to find a solution to these kind of problems, and always try to understand how long we should live in this situation, how long we should bear the consequences of the Azerbaijani aggression and Azerbaijani crimes. But still, we have no any positive change in this direction, and we are still we still hope that with the engagement also of our diaspora compatriots, we could manage to have more precise reaction of the international community.
Gegham, I think one of the important things that you've raised in your statements is the genocidal campaign and the ethnic cleansing that is clearly on the agenda of the regime in Baku. And I wanted to say, you raised an important point of engagement with the diaspora, because one of the greatest risks in ethnic cleansing, of course, is isolation and isolationism. Baku is trying everything it can to isolate Artsakh from the international community, from the view of the Minsk co-chairs. And I wanted to ask you what you have seen in terms of your outreach to various international organizations. Have you seen any successes other than the OSCE Minsk group chairs? Have you had any successes, and what do you feel, where should the focus of the diaspora be in raising the alarm that these recent aggressions demonstrate as another step towards ethnic cleansing? What are your views on where the diaspora could focus its efforts, and also what you've seen in terms of successes in terms of reaching out to international organizations?
Unfortunately, my opportunities and my channels to reach to international community are very limited, and I always try to present my reports, my statements to different officials of, for example, those who just visited Artsakh, had been in their lives in Artsakh, and to try to also engage them in the raising the awareness about the situation in Artsakh. And also I sent all my statements, all the reports that we prepare to international organizations, both governmental organizations and non-governmental human rights organizations. For example, Human Rights Commissioner of Council of Europe, UN Human Rights Commissioner, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Freedom House, all the organizations that have primary mandates to protect human rights. But unfortunately, the response that I get from them is not enough, and they just respond that they received the report or the statement, thank you very much, and we will consider, and so on. But I feel that they are reluctant in getting into communication also with our office. They consider our office and human rights defender as a governmental organization, so they try to escape the direct communication with us. But fortunately, there are organizations, and especially non-governmental organizations, who still work with us and who still try to understand the situation on the ground by asking questions, by trying to have more information from Artsakh, from our office, from the citizens, and from NGOs that are functioning here in Artsakh. The main channel for us still remains the diaspora organizations that are also very much engaged in raising awareness about the problem that exist in Artsakh, and also for my office, the Office of Ombudsman of the Republic of Armenia. They also help in this issue. They also try to engage, to use all their channels to speak with international organizations and human rights responsible, and with all those who are responsible for the protection of human rights, and to present our problems. About the engagement of diaspora, I think that diaspora I think that at this point, when the Azerbaijani aggression and the Azerbaijani crimes actions are more aggressive, and when we really have a very devastating situation, humanitarian situation in Artsakh, diaspora should be more active in spreading the information of the reality, and especially in this situation when we really are isolated from the world. International media is not covering the problems, the human rights violations of Artsakh people. Very rare officials, politicians are speaking about Artsakh. So I think that diaspora should be more active in these affairs, and especially trying to bring our problems into the attention of international media, to the attention of different organizations. This is how I imagine the engagement of diaspora, and this is how I think the diaspora organizations and individuals could be helpful to Artsakh. For breaking this isolation, and and especially in the times when the whole world is engaged in matters in the war of in Ukraine, and they are all speaking about Ukraine, and they do not even want to look into other corners of the world where human rights are being widely violated. So we should be more active in all spheres, in lobbying the international organizations, different governments, and also trying to engage international media.
Gegham, I couldn't agree with you more about the need for diaspora to be engaged, rather re-engaged and activated. I have to say that I am personally very disappointed for this round of hostilities brought upon the people in the Republic of Artsakh. The diaspora's response has been dismal, in my opinion, collective and individual. It is telling that when we speak about the primary guarantor of peace for the Republic of Artsakh and its citizens being Russia, based on the trilateral agreement, and thus Russia really cannot be classified as an occupying force, neither in Artsakh as Artsakh Republic, nor in the imagination of Azerbaijan that goes on thinking that Artsakh Republic is historic Azerbaijan. That's a different story. But I was taken aback by the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, Alexei Danilov, yesterday, who actually called for opening of new fronts against in the Russian occupied territories, he called it, of other countries, and that, in his opinion, would help Ukraine. The first takeaway from that remark for me was, well, Alexei Danilov just recognized the Republic of Artsakh, because he characterized it as the Russian occupied territories of other countries, and he specifically then made a reference about the fact that Bayraktars are not only ironing out issues in the territory, they have worked also, as he called it, in Nagorno-Karabakh. And then he went on and talked about Armenia supposedly asking Russia to help them with troops, but then he concluded that Russia is pulling its troops out of Artsakh to send them to Ukraine. So I ask you, you're on the ground, is Russia pulling troops out of Ukraine? First question. Second follow-up to that is, if no, then what is Russia doing? I appreciate the fact that they restored the sovereignty over the village, Parnuch, but the mountaintop, I understand, is still controlled by the invading army. So is Russia pulling out? And if not, what is Russia doing to secure the integrity of that which is within Republic of Artsakh post-November 9, pursuant to the trilateral agreement?
It is really fake information coming from the Ukrainian officials, and it is the second time that Ukrainian officials are trying to use the crimes and the aggressive actions of Azerbaijan for their favor and trying to manipulate the essence, the context of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, and to use it for having some gains in their informational war that they have today with Russia. The whole contingent of Russian peacekeeping forces that were deployed in Artsakh since November 9, 2020. They are here. Any forces were not removed from Artsakh. And coming to your second question, what Russia is doing. In fact, the Russian peacekeepers are trying to guarantee the security of Artsakh people, to guarantee the peace in the territory of Artsakh. But unfortunately, I should mention that the main problem that also the peacekeepers are facing now is the absence of clearly defined mandate. I mean, they have no clearly defined mandate which will allow them, for example, to shoot or to punish the side who violates the ceasefire regime. They are not allowed to shoot or take any other action against the violators of the ceasefire. And this is a very serious problem that, and the consequences of which we see now, and not just now, and during all the time in the past year and a half, we had more than 100 cases of ceasefire violation, which resulted in the death, in the killings of 3 civilians and 30 servicemen, and 40 people were wounded as a result of these violations. But each time we made a statement, we brought the details of the violation, but the Russian side has not any kind of mechanisms to deal with these issues. This is the main problem. And they also voice about that. They also say that, we have no any kind of clearly defined mechanism how to behave in these situations. And each time they just report to Moscow and wait for the response to come from Moscow. And all the time the issues mainly are being resolved through political means. This is the main reason why the Artsakh authorities applied to Russia and Russian leadership, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, to clarify the levels of the peacekeeping troops and also to enhance the capacities of the troops currently in Artsakh, in order to eliminate in the future the continuation of violation of ceasefire. And I think, in fact, I think that in this direction, it is not Russia that should be only responsible, because we have internationally mandated organization and internationally mandated format for the resolution of Nagorno-Karabakh, and it is OSCE Minsk Group co-chairman. And co-chairs should raise this issue, and also, of course, the Armenian Foreign Ministry, and to push both sides, and especially the Azerbaijani side, to agree with the mandate, with a clearly defined mandate of Russian peacekeeping troops in Artsakh. Otherwise, these kind of violations will remain in the place and will continue. So the situation, only Russian side will not be able to tackle these problems.
Well, you know, Karnig, if I may very briefly follow up, we know that the Russian peacekeeping units provided escort for not one, not two, but 3 columns of the armed forces of the Republic of Azerbaijan through the Lachin corridor. Now, 2 in the north and 1 in the south. One wonders, how did in the first place 3 columns enter into Armenian territories of Republic of Artsakh undetected? Or now it sounds like, okay, maybe detected, but there is no order, green light, to shoot and stop such incursion. If that's the case, you know, I guess I have to agree with our longtime viewer from San Francisco, Shahen, who writes, for 26 years, Azeris prepared, educated, and created a network of foreign allies for their cause. They managed to convince their audience that they are the victim. We cannot be on reactive mode. Hearing we have limited resources even now is not acceptable, especially with strong diaspora like us. I will reserve my comments about the diaspora for my closing remarks at the end of this program. But are you saying, Gegham, that the peacekeeping forces, unfortunately, do not have the authority to defend the integrity should that integrity be violated? That's very troublesome if that's the case.
Yes, I clearly state that the Russian peacekeeping forces have any real mechanism of preventing the violations of peace in Artsakh and preventing the such kinds of invasion of our Azerbaijani side into the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. And I think, and I insist, that in order to prevent the continuation of such kind of violations, the mandate of Russian peacekeeping troops should be defined clearly. Otherwise, we will face the same problems in the future.
And we have faced the same problems in the future, in the past repeatedly, although in smaller scale. And I wonder, you know, we have not heard of the joint ceasefire monitoring station in Agdam since it was established. And I wonder, has one wonders as to what type of coordination is happening there or not happening there. And my question is, have there been any attempts to get the OSCE to create a mechanism for trying to assess these ceasefire violations and make sure that there is and make sure there are consequences to the violations? What has the OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs, what have they done aside from the statement that was issued, Gegham, in your opinion, and what else should they be doing at this moment in time?
I think after the ceasefire, they literally did nothing, and the OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs just stated a number of times that the humanitarian problems in Nagorno-Karabakh should be resolved, and they are also working in this direction. But the stance of Baku on the future functioning of OSCE Minsk Group is also very obvious. They say that Karabakh conflict is settled and there is no need to continue any kind of negotiations within the mandate of OSCE Minsk Group. And I am very much surprised that during all this that is happening in Artsakh now, the OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs did not make any statement even condemning the Azerbaijani aggression or just stating what really happens in Artsakh. I am not informed about whether they are taking any steps for clarifying the mandate of peacekeepers in Artsakh, but I think that both the Armenian authorities and the Armenian Ministry of Foreign Affairs should bring into the attention of OSCE Minsk Group and other organizations, UN, Council of Europe, and OSCE the issue of clarifying the mandate. There is no other way to ensure that the violations will be prevented other than to punish the violators. But this impunity is the main reason why Azerbaijan is constantly trying to violate, constantly violates the ceasefire regime.
How are we doing on time? I know you have to go to a meeting at the National Assembly. I think we have 15 minutes. Gegham, war is the consequence of failed diplomacy, okay? And here we are in March of 2022, and war is going on still. And it's really a one-sided war, and it's disheartening to hear any world leader, if you will, whether it's Mr. Putin of Russia or Mr. Biden of the United States or any European country leader, pleading for calm for all parties. Nobody in their right mind can possibly believe that people of Artsakh are busy trying to instigate military conflict with Azerbaijan when they are deprived of the basic necessities of life, heating in sub-zero temperatures. So if diplomacy is failing, and if Artsakh does not have the right to be present at the United Nations to speak for itself, and if Armenia, the Republic of Armenia, is going to be speaking on behalf of Artsakh as a proxy, if you will, do you agree or disagree that the Republic of Armenia, if that is the vehicle, should be engaging in dialogue with various diasporan organizations, entities, so that what Republic of Armenia may be able to accomplish in dialogue in one part of the world, diasporan communities in their respective countries would also be doing a concerted effort. Where is this disconnect? Because clearly there's a disconnect.
Yes, I think that in order to have effective results and in order to reach any results, the diaspora organizations, diaspora in general, the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Artsakh must work together. There is no other way to ensure any kind of results for us. I mean, for the Armenian side. I do not know where is the disconnect, but I think that the situation should be changed. And I do not know how, but I think that we should try to make Nagorno-Karabakh problem, Artsakh problem, and the resolution of this kind and works toward the recognition of Artsakh independence, our main priority, both in Artsakh, in diaspora, and in the Republic of Armenia. Yes, I noticed. Yes, today the Republic of Armenia is still negotiating on part of Artsakh, and is the part of negotiations presenting our people, and we do not have the opportunity to speak on our own, but I can say that we are not going to agree with other suggestions and other proposals of the resolution of this conflict other than the recognition of the right of our people to self-determination. And we hope, and I hope, that diaspora organizations will push this and help us to to reach out to international community.
And Gegham and Garo, I have to say, listening to this, the last few minutes, especially of our conversation, I think that there are some takeaways that are absolutely imperative at this point. One thing is that this will happen again. I think we have to convince ourselves that this is going to happen again. That urgency we feel when we hear there's an attack allows us to react. But why are we going to have to react? Let us be proactive. It is clear it is going to happen again. And quite frankly, I think it's putting our head in the sand if we pretend it's not going to happen again. It's not business as usual. It's not going to be business as usual. And unfortunately for the Armenian diaspora, as difficult as we may think it is, it's a lot more difficult for the people in Artsakh today to live in these conditions. We have to dig in again because the war has not stopped. The issue is leadership and direction. And my point is this: whenever there's an urgency, whenever there's urgency of leadership and direction, and you need and a certain thing or an idea is priority, you focus on that on that place. In this particular instance, we should take leadership and direction from Artsakh. It's very clear to me. It's not that complicated. I think that the disconnect is a number of organizations looking out at each other and wondering where is direction coming from. Direction is coming from the people that are freezing in Stepanakert. They're coming from the front lines in the Askeran region. That's where the direction is coming from. And I think it's imperative upon all of us in the diaspora and the diaspora organizations to connect with the Artsakh Human Rights Ombudsman, with the Artsakh Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with the Artsakh establishment, and understand the narratives that are coming out of Stepanakert and actually work to amplify those narratives in the places that we have influence and control. And we do have that influence and control. With April 24th around the corner, maybe we should be thinking in a larger scheme. This is part of the genocidal campaign of a century. There's no difference. We spoke about these themes on this program many, many times, and it is clear that it is attached. One is linked to the other. We cannot, if we learned of 125,000 Armenians living in Gars today, I'm sure our reaction would be a little bit different. Well, this is what we have. This is exactly what we have. We have an Armenian population that is literally at this point encircled by a military which is intent on destroying them, evicting them, and eliminating them. I don't know what else we're waiting for than to constantly feel that we are in a state of war. We will have to be in a state of war until, as Gegham said, we get to the stage where we do have recognition, where we do have the right of self-determination respected, and that brings security to the situation as it is today. I think that our focus needs to be on what's coming out of Stepanakert. I don't really have a question here, Gegham, other than to say that the work that your office has been doing is tremendous, and I think that the work that the Foreign Ministry of Artsakh is doing is tremendous. I think it's the job of the diaspora to reach out. It's not that hard. You can flip over to the websites, to the Facebook pages, to the Twitter accounts, and find out the narratives, amplify the narratives. And I think that with April 24th around the corner, I think it's an imperative that Armenian institutions and Armenian diaspora organizations understand that this link is the most important link of our day. That is what we have to understand. We have to understand that this is a continuation, and we cannot sit back and watch what is happening to our compatriots, because this is an existential threat, an existential issue that we have been dealing with, unfortunately, for generations, but it is particularly acute right now, and it will remain so. I don't see this as an incident to an incident. This is part of a large pattern of conduct. And Gegham, maybe that's the question. Has any of the evidence that you've seen shown that this is anything other than a pattern of conduct by Azerbaijan?
I didn't get the question.
My question is, I guess, are the actions that you're seeing right now that are taking place now part of a pattern of conduct from Baku directed towards the elimination or the eviction, as you had put it in one of your statements, of the Armenians of Artsakh? Is that the goal?
Yes, of course, it is the goal. It is the long-term policy of the Azerbaijani side is indeed the ethnic cleansing, which has become obvious since the end of February, and since then that Azerbaijan started more aggressive actions against the frontline villages. The facts are more than enough to prove this very simple reality. And if in the past we had to prove the international actors and foreign observers that the ethnic cleansing is actually their goal, the goal of Azerbaijani leadership, now it is pretty obvious, and there is no need for any efforts to prove them that the real goal of the Azerbaijani authorities is to evict the Armenian population from Artsakh and to implement ethnic cleansing in Artsakh. I think that all the actions taken by Azerbaijan after the establishment of ceasefire and also during the 44 days, the day war, are intended on this, on the implementation of this policy. They really did not imagine that so many people will return and live in Artsakh after all the crimes that they committed against our people. And this is why the Azerbaijani president Ilham Aliyev is constantly stated that there are 20,000 people living in Artsakh, but it does not correspond to the reality. Reality is that we have 120,000 people living in Artsakh now, and we have also people still in the Republic of Armenia, in Yerevan and other towns and villages of Armenia, who are waiting the housing problem to be resolved, to be settled, in order to return to their homes. And I think that this is the main reason why Azerbaijan is putting more efforts to end up with this policy of ethnic cleansing and to resolve this conflict. And I think I will join you, Karnig and Garo, in calling our diaspora compatriots once again to be more active, to work with everybody who is engaged in Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, who is working in this direction and who is working in international institutions, and to demand that the international structures and decision makers of different states put pressure on Azerbaijan, and also to show them that it's unacceptable to use both sides in the context of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. And because it is Azerbaijan that is implementing ethnic cleansing to remove the native Armenian population of Artsakh, and if the international community keeps silence, it means that they are legitimizing the criminal policy of Azerbaijan. And we all together in Artsakh, in Armenia and diaspora, we have very clear task to raise the issues of the rise of these kind of issues, and to demand from international community, from different states, to be more active, to be more engaged in this conflict, in the resolution of this conflict.
You know, Karnig, I'm going to do something different unless you have another question. What I want to do, Gegham, is I want to share with you what I had prepared as my closing remarks, because this latest assault onto what I consider my brothers and sisters, what I consider my homeland, what I consider the part of the indispensable Armenian highlands and Armenian nation, if you will, Artsakh, is something that has been keeping me awake at night from the first outburst that it began when they first cut off the gas. I'm gonna share with you my thoughts. You're gonna have the final words on Frontlines, because I don't want to have the final words on Frontlines, not tonight. Look, we talked earlier about war is a product of a failed diplomacy, okay? But in war, there are two components, right? There's the one fought in the battlefield, and there's the one fought out in the media, if you will, the information warfare. And losing in one battlefield due to the aggressor's superior weapon capabilities that Azerbaijan has is one thing. losing in terms of capacity to fight back power with power, but losing the information war. That war, that losing it is unforgivable for us. Now we can talk about Azerbaijan has oil money. We can talk about we are poor people. We're not poor people, okay? We may be cheap if we're not spending our dollars in the right place or our time the right way. We are silent, most of all. That's the problem that I have. We are silent, okay? Azeris withdraw their forces from the Parukh village of the Askeran region, but they do it tactically, They do it tactically. They don't remove themselves from the Karakaluch, which is their aim all along, and unless they are pushed back, that becomes their strategic achievement. Well, how are they going to get pushed back? If we don't have a strong military capability, if our peacekeeping forces from the Russian Federation have limited mandate, we can only push back with information warfare, right? And we know, as Karnig said a minute ago, this is not the end of it, right? The security of the villages now is still fragile, but that's not all. All that's visible from that hilltop is also fragile. So for Armenians who may relax now, as mildly as I can put it, for those in Yerevan cafes, for those in the diaspora, whether you are silent and passive or are clueless and carefree, I say, look, a century ago, the Ottoman Turks referred to us Armenians as terrorists to justify their attempt to eliminate the Armenian race. Ask yourself, what has changed today? What has changed today? Our people in Artsakh today are being indiscriminately targeted, brutally killed, massacred, and your indifference, ladies and gentlemen, our indifference, our silence is bringing to life that very well-known phrase, silence aids the oppressor. So in silence, we are aiding the oppressor and perpetuating the oppression. Azerbaijan is Turkey's proxy, everybody knows it. It was back in 2020, it is now again, okay? And that policy is no different than its superior's policy. It's a genocidal policy. And our silence is enabling the world's silence. If we're not speaking, why should we expect others to speak up? I hope that we can rise up. And if we can do nothing else, at least we can raise our voice. And not just at parties, not just by singing patriotic songs, but protesting and protesting every day and every hour of every day. In whatever medium. You want to go right on Twitter, right on Twitter. You want to go put it on Instagram, put it on Instagram. You want to, here's a thought. Put an Artsakh flag outside your door. Instead of running around town on April 24 with tricolor Armenian flag, start driving around with an Artsakh flag every day. Every one of you. Do something. Do something. I mean, you know what? Here's something that I saw that was done, and I bow in gratitude and respect. The women of Artsakh for the future of Artsakh. That was the title. They initiated and organized a peaceful rally in Stepanakert Renaissance Square. Their goal was to demand the solving of the urgent problem of maintaining the security of the people of Artsakh. Okay, so the numb state of our nation, the Armenian nation, is going to be leaving a very big question: our national identity. Our national identity. No matter how much we deceive ourselves that a good future awaits, that this situation is transitory, with phrases like abakaga, okay, that objective reality that is true on the ground will not change. We have to ask ourselves, why do we not remember our history related to the Ottoman Turks and the Azeris from the Shushi massacre of 100 years ago? Why don't we remember that? Do the Azeris today behave with the generosity of a winner? Are they generous, having been victorious in a 44-day war on the ground? Or do they still capture Do they still seize? Do they still pillage and kill? Why does Turkey still not accept the behavior of genocide against the Armenian nation, its own behavior? Do Turkey and Azerbaijan want the prosperity of the Armenian nation? Who the hell believes this garbage? Did the Armenian governments retreat from Artsakh? Let's talk about that for a minute. Did that protect Armenia from Azerbaijan? Or Armenia's borders today are being infiltrated by Azerbaijani forces? The main roads are being overlooked by Azerbaijani soldiers. So what policy is going to save us from destruction? I mean, we have to remember that the Azeri or Turkish enemy does not classify us, as some of us apparently classify ourselves, as black or white. They don't classify us as rich or poor. They do not think of us based on our respective Armenian political party of choice. They see us as Armenians, period. I mean, let's not forget the Azerbaijani army was going around filming, elderly people being beheaded by them. Prisoners of war on the field being beheaded by them and publicizing it. Unless we remember that Artsakh is Armenia's gateway, and therefore it's really the gateway to Armenia's security, we're going to have a problem. We have to return to national values. And let me just finally say this. A word about the Armenia-diaspora relations. Look, I have concluded, and I think it's a very sound conclusion, one cannot survive without the other. It cannot. You cannot have a diaspora another 100, 200 years without having a homeland, without having Artsakh independent. You cannot. You cannot. Today, Artsakh, tomorrow, Sunik, the next day will be Lake Sevan, and one day it'll be the Opera Square. It's just the way it is. You have to strengthen Artsakh. And if you're going to have to strengthen Artsakh so that you can understand one cannot survive without the other, then the two of them, Artsakh and the diaspora, in this instance, and when I say Artsakh, I mean Artsakh and Armenia as one, must rise up together. Because to achieve what neither can accomplish alone, they must rise up together. We must have some synchronized activities going forward. Everything else is really rhetoric. We can talk forever. Everything else is rhetoric. We are not together. I don't care what anybody says, we're not together. Sending some money here, sending some supplies there, and thinking that I did my part, and then go about my business. No. We have to overcome and we have to persevere. Why do we have to do that? Because Artsakh is our homeland. It is our ancestral lands, and it is our home and our independence. It defines us. It defines us. And if it's not going to define us, then we might as well just go be Joe Blow, American citizen, Joe Blow, French citizen, Joe Blow, Middle Eastern, whatever country of your choice is. Forget the language, forget the culture, and don't talk about Artsakh ever again. I hope that's not what happens. All right. So you could tell I'm very, very frustrated because I don't feel helpless, because there isn't a day that I don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things. Every day I must do something. I want to know, does everybody think the same way? Do people have this understanding that, you know what? It's not just a beautiful place you visited in Artsakh, okay? The Dudan Gorge is not just a beautiful place. Shushi is not just some great mountaintop place you visited. Neither is Khorvirab, neither is the Sunik region, neither is the view of Mount Ararat. This is not some place you go visit as a tourist. That's your homeland. I know I spoke forever. You have the final word, Gegham. You have the final word. Thank you.
You said everything, Garoja. I just want to thank you very much for for this opportunity once again, and to say that me personally and the Ombudsman office is always ready to present every information that is needed for the diaspora compatriots and diaspora organizations to push these issues, and we are always ready to cooperate. We really are collecting and implementing a good fact-finding here, and if we can be helpful for the activation of diaspora, we are always here, we are always ready. And thank you once again for this discussion.
Thank you very much, Gegham, and we thank our viewers for joining us again today. And again, we encourage you to visit the social media sites and websites of the Artsakh Ombudsman, the Artsakh MFA, and other institutions directly on the ground to hear and to read, to learn, and then also to amplify. As Garo said, we always have to do something every day, many times a day, as many times as we can. So thank you very much, Gegham, for joining us. Have a good day, and please join us again in the next week or so, if not sooner, to convey updates and information directly from the ground.
Thank you.
Thank you.